The blade slid into his side without a sound. Captain Riker didn't scream. He didn't even flinch. His training didn't allow him to. Instead, he grabbed the wrist of the person behind him, twisted, and threw her over his shoulder, in one fluid motion. But the damage was already done. Blood soaked through the fabric of his armor, warm and thick. He dropped to one knee, breathing hard. His vision blurred for a second. She stood across the room now, a tall figure in dark armor, her face hidden behind a smooth black helmet. Silent, motionless. Watching. "You move fast," Riker said, forcing a smile as he pressed his hand to the wound. "But you forgot one thing." She tilted her head. "I never miss a kill." He pulled his sidearm and fired. Too slow. She vanished behind a wall of smoke from a sudden flashbang. Riker coughed, blinking through the haze. By the time the smoke cleared, she was gone. Again, 13 minutes earlier, Riker had been walking through the broken streets of Colony 7, a mining outpost abandoned years ago. The sky above was orange with dust storms. Power lines sparked overhead. He had come alone as ordered. No backup, no drones, a simple contract. Or so they said. The message had been clear. Eliminate a traitor to the Galactic Council. No name, just coordinates and a time. Standard for his line of work. Riker didn't ask questions. He got paid to end problems, not understand them. But now, bleeding in a forgotten control room, Riker realized he wasn't the hunter this time. He was the target. He pressed a button on his wrist module. A small drone unfolded and floated beside him, shining a soft light on the wound. "Seal it," he ordered. The drone sprayed foam and light across the cut, slowing the bleeding. It still hurt like hell. "She was fast," he said out loud, watching. The door. "And trained. Only a few could move like that. Only a few could plant a blade and vanish before the target could react. A professional." His thoughts turned to the message again. No name. No face. Just a voice on a secure channel. "Go. Alone." He cursed. He should have known. The job was too clean. Too easy. Someone had flipped the script, and she knew him. He was sure of it now. Her silence, her precision, the way she didn't kill him when she had the chance. It wasn't a mistake. This was personal. Riker pulled himself up and limped to the main console. The room was old, full of broken screens and flickering wires. But his eyes caught something. Movement on one of the monitors. A heat signature, barely visible. Someone had been watching him long before the ambush. He tapped the controls. The feed was looping. Pre-recorded, a trap. "Damn it," he muttered. He looked at the floor. Something caught his eye. A small silver dart. He picked it up. Standard issue. Not hers. His gear. His agency. They'd given her his weapons, his codes, his patterns. They wanted him dead. Why? Before he could think more, the console buzzed. A message. Voice only. Female. Calm. Cold. "You're good, Captain." Better than they said. But not good enough. Click. Silence. Riker stared at the screen. So she was watching. Still. He grabbed his rifle, slung it over his back, and walked out of the control room. He didn't bother hiding his blood trail. Let her follow if she wanted. He had a name to find. A face to match. And a kill to finish, miles above. On a silent orbiting station, the Huntress removed her helmet. Her skin was pale blue, her eyes dark like space itself. She watched Riker walk into the storm through a live feed. "You're alive," she whispered. "Good." She touched the scar on her jaw, old and faded. A memory from years ago. "You owe me, Riker." A tall man in a suit stepped beside her. "You failed," he said. She didn't answer. "We needed him dead." "He's more useful alive," she replied. "For now." The man frowned. "You care too much." She looked at the screen again. Riker was almost out of sight now. "No," she said. I care just enough to end this the right way. And she walked away, leaving only silence behind. The Huntress. The room was silent, except for the slow, rhythmic sound of breathing. Not hers, his. She watched him through the screen, her gloved hand hovering over the panel, just one button away from ending it. But she didn't press it. Not yet. Not like this. He was crawling out of the ruined building, still alive after everything, bleeding, but alive. Stubborn, just like they said. She had slipped the blade into his side, perfectly placed, not deep enough to kill. On purpose. This wasn't about the contract anymore. This was about control. About revenge. And he didn't even remember her face. Years ago, on a forgotten planet where the Council tested its weapons, a girl had watched her world burn. She was 10. Her father, a diplomat, had refused to hand over human refugees. They came at night. No lights, no mercy. A single man in black armor walked into their home and dragged her father away in front of her. She remembered the cold precision of his movements, how his eyes never blinked, how he left without saying a word. She remembered his face. Captain Riker. Her training began the next day. The syndicate found her in the ruins and raised her, not as a child, not as a victim, as a weapon. For years they sharpened her like a knife. No emotions, no hesitation, no distractions. But she remembered. She always remembered. Now the syndicate wanted Riker dead. But they weren't the only ones. Someone in the Galactic Council had signed off on the order. That meant Riker had become a problem for powerful people. Dangerous people. People who didn't like humans reminding them of their failures. But something was off. They didn't just want him dead. They wanted him erased. No trace. No noise. A quiet death. And that meant they were afraid. She leaned back from the screen and removed her helmet, her short black hair sticking to her forehead. Her skin glowed faintly in the dim blue light. Hybrid. Not fully alien, not fully human. Just like they made her. But her thoughts were clear. Riker was no longer just a contract. He was a thread. And if she pulled it, something big would unravel. Meanwhile, Riker had made it back to his ship, a small recon-class cruiser named Shadowvale. Inside, his bleeding had stopped, but the questions kept coming. Why her? Why now? He stood at the console, shirtless, his wound wrapped tight, his muscles tensed. The ship's AI, Delta, spoke softly. You are not safe, Captain. Scans show high-level tracking code embedded in your armor. Remove it, he said. Done. But there's more. Go on. Your last mission file was accessed remotely. Unauthorized entry, encrypted. He narrowed his eyes. By who? Origin unknown, but based on the signal trace it came from orbit, above Colony 7. She was still watching. He turned toward the comms console. Get me Vera. A pause. Connection secured. A hologram flickered to life. Vera appeared, short hair, half-metal face, arms crossed. She looked annoyed. You look like hell, she said. I've had worse. This isn't a social call, is it? Someone tried to kill me. Let me guess, Vera said, leaning in. Syndicate? And someone in the council. That made her pause. You're sure? They sent a hybrid assassin, highly trained. Syndicate gear, but she knew me. Vera raised an eyebrow. A fan? No, the opposite. She leaned closer. You think she's personal? I know it. Then you're screwed, Vera said, almost smiling. Those are the ones who always finish the job. Back in orbit, the Huntress stood in the center of a dark room surrounded by screens showing hundreds of faces, targets, some dead, some alive. Only one mattered, Riker's face. She zoomed in on the latest footage, him dragging himself through the dust storm, wounded but focused. He hadn't changed. Still a soldier, still cold, still dangerous, and yet still human. Her fingers hovered over a new file. Classified. Locked. She entered a code only high-level syndicate agents had. The file opened. She stared at it in silence. Captain Riker. Operation. Purge. Date. 14 years ago. Mission. Eliminate unauthorized contact between human rebels and neutral planets. Clearance. Top secret. Additional notes. Terminated a diplomat suspected of aiding human fugitives. The name below the entry made her stomach twist. Ambassador Drayan. Her father. She knew it. She had always known it. But seeing it there, in cold data, brought it back like a knife to the ribs. But something else caught her eye. A second line added recently. Status. Rogue agent. Target. Riker. Sender. Unknown. Not from the syndicate. Someone else was pulling strings now. Someone scared of what Riker might remember. And that meant she wasn't the only hunter anymore. That night. As Riker stared into the endless stars outside his ship's window, he made a decision. He wasn't going to run. He wasn't going to hide. He was going to find out who turned him into a target, and why. He whispered to the stars, not knowing she was listening. You slipped a blade into my side, Huntress. But you forgot I never miss a kill. Far above him, she turned off the monitor. Her eyes narrowed. Prove it. The message in the blood. The pain returned just as he thought it was fading. Not the blade wound. He could handle that. Pain was familiar, predictable. What surged through his veins now was something else. Heat. Pressure. A slow, burning pulse, deep beneath the skin of his ribs, like something was moving. Riker gritted his teeth and leaned against the medbay wall of the shadow veil. Cold sweat trickled down his back. His fingers trembled as he grabbed a surgical scanner and aimed it at the wound. Delta, he said. Give me full internal scan. No filters. Scanning now, the ship's AI replied calmly. The screen lit up with his body's image. Layers of tissue, blood vessels, bone. Nothing unusual at first, then the AI paused. Foreign object detected. What? He growled. Where? Subcutaneous layer 2 centimeters from impact site. Unknown tech. Non-organic. Partially fused with nerve tissue. Riker stared at the image. Embedded inside his own body, right next to where the Huntress had stabbed him, was a small black shard. Extract it, he said. Warning. Procedure will cause trauma. Do it anyway. A robotic arm extended with a surgical needle. Riker didn't flinch as it pierced into the flesh. Blood flowed. Pain flared white-hot. And then, the shard clicked free. A small, jagged object, no bigger than a fingernail, lay on the surgical tray. It shimmered faintly, covered in nanowires. Tech he didn't recognize, definitely not human. Identify, Riker ordered. Unknown alien material. Scanning, encrypted. Signal-based. Low-range transmitter. A tracking device, but not just that, something else. Something encoded. Delta's voice returned. Embedded signal detected. Translating now. Message playback available. Riker stood still. A message? From who? He nodded. Play it. Static. Then a voice. Cold. Familiar. Not the Huntress. His old commander. If you're hearing this, Riker, you've already been betrayed and you're already being hunted. The contract was never real. The mission was never real. You are the mission now. His heart pounded. They know what you did. What you found during the Karnath purge. That file you were ordered to bury. You should have destroyed it, but you didn't. And now they're burning the past, one soldier at a time. The voice paused. This device was planted under your skin during your last sleep cycle. You've been carrying it for months without knowing, just in case. Another pause, then. They've activated Phase 2. The message ended. For a long time, Riker didn't move. He remembered the Karnath purge. It had been a massacre, ordered by the Galactic Council to wipe out a rebel colony. But there had been something strange. Refugees wearing syndicate tags, civilians carrying high-grade council tech. Riker had found a file. Encrypted. Dangerous. He was told to delete it. He didn't. He hid it. But he couldn't remember where. Across the galaxy. The Huntress walked through a narrow corridor of a hidden Syndicate cruiser. Alarms flashed. The ship had gone dark. Systems offline. Crew missing. This wasn't an accident. This was a message. On the walls, someone had painted a symbol she hadn't seen in years. A spiral with a dagger through it. An old rebel mark. Dead for years. Or so she thought. She reached the command deck. The room was empty except for one thing. A dead Syndicate officer. Throat slit. Beside him, a message carved into the console. You're not the only one who remembers. Her blood ran cold. Someone was targeting her too. Not just Riker. This went deeper than revenge. Back aboard the Shadow Veil, Riker opened an old storage file hidden deep in the ship's core. Voice locked. Buried under years of false logs. It took him 4 tries to unlock it. The file glowed onto the screen, a single document with one word at the top. Project Ashfall. He remembered that name. Barely. Classified beyond his level. He opened the file. What he saw made his skin go cold. Ashfall wasn't a rebel op. It was a council cover-up. Humans had discovered something buried deep beneath a dead moon. Technology, far older than any known species. Ancient, powerful, dangerous. The council had ordered it sealed, destroyed. But the Syndicate had stolen parts of it, experimented with it. And now, they were building something. The weapon wasn't aimed at rebels, it was aimed at Earth, to erase human presence from the galaxy. And Riker had been one of the soldiers used to clean up the evidence. Now they wanted him dead before he could remember the rest. Delta, Riker said, voice hard. I need all logs of the Ashfall site, everything. Access denied. External interference detected. From where? Tracking signal. Same as the shard. You're being monitored. His eyes narrowed. Not anymore. He crushed the shard in his hand. On the outer rim, the Huntress watched a secret transmission. Footage of Riker breaking the shard, blood dripping from his palm. He had found it. And now, he knew. A soft voice spoke behind her, the same Syndicate handler from before. You should have killed him. She didn't turn. I did. The old Riker is dead. The man frowned. He's remembering too fast. Then we slow him down. How? She finally turned to face him, by reminding him what it feels like to lose. As Riker prepared to leave orbit, the Shadow Veil rocked violently. Red lights flashed. Incoming missile, Delta said. Targeting propulsion core. From who? Unknown vessel. No signature. Before Riker could answer, the ship exploded into hyperspeed. Too late. He was already in motion. Destination. The place where it all began. The Ashfall moon. He didn't know what he'd find there. But he knew one thing. Someone wanted him erased. And someone else wanted him to remember. Either way, he was done running. He checked his sidearm. Loaded a new clip. Come on then, he whispered. Let's finish what you started. Old ghosts. New guns. The bar didn't even have a name. Just a red flickering sign and a rusted door that screamed when it opened. The kind of place where mercenaries went to disappear, where killers drank alone, where trust came in 2 forms, cash and silence. And yet, Captain Riker walked in like he owned the place. He was limping, jacket burned on one side, a fresh scar under his eye. But he didn't care about the stares. Every set of eyes in the room followed him for a moment, then looked away. They knew that look. The look of a man who had survived something he shouldn't have, and who might not let anyone else survive if they crossed him. He walked past broken tables, old war banners and silent bounty hunters, toward the back corner, where she was. Vera. She sat with her boots on the table, sipping something that smoked from a steel cup. A scar ran across her metal jaw. One arm was full, cybernetic, glowing faintly. Blue. Her eyes locked on Riker as he approached. "You look worse than the last time I left you for dead," she said, not smiling. "I lived," Riker replied, pulling out a chair and sitting down. "That's the part that surprises me. Once, years ago, they'd been partners. Not just on missions, on survival. Vera and Riker had cleared syndicate kill zones, taken down high-value targets, and buried more secrets than either wanted to count. But the last job they did together had ended in flames and betrayal. Riker had orders to kill her. He didn't, but she never forgot. And she never forgave. "You said you needed help," she said, swirling the drink. "That was 2 days ago. Now you show up with half a ship missing and a death signal still pulsing from your back pocket." "I removed the tracker," Riker said. "Not fast enough," she replied. "They're already coming." He tossed a data chip on the table. "This is why." She picked it up, slid it into her wrist port. Her eye flickered as the contents loaded. "Project Ashfall," she whispered. "You found it." "I remembered it," he said. Vera leaned forward. "You were there, weren't you?" "The purge?" "Yeah." "What did you see?" Riker looked away for a second, then met her eyes. Technology, not from any known race, buried under the surface of that moon. Glowing machines, weapons that think, alive. "You were ordered to destroy it." "I was ordered to lie," Riker said quietly, "and kill anyone who asked too many questions." Vera stared at him. "And now you're the one asking?" "Yeah," he said. "Funny how that works." They left the bar an hour later, walking into the cold winds of Outpost 19. Vera's ship was parked in a hidden canyon nearby, a modified gunboat, named the Hex. She tossed Riker a new rifle as they climbed aboard. "Figured you'd need an upgrade," she said. He checked the weapon. "Magnetic barrel, hybrid tech, very illegal. You've been busy." "I work for people who don't care about laws," she said. "But they hate the syndicate even more than you do." "They got names? None you'd want to say out loud." He gave a small smirk. "My kind of people." She stopped at the console. "But they want something in return." "Of course they do. They want the weapon," she said. "Whatever you saw under Ashfall, they want it first." Riker paused. "They don't even know what it is. Neither do we. That's what scares me." Hours later, as the Hex soared through the void, Riker stared at the stars. He couldn't stop thinking about the Huntress. Why didn't she kill him? Why leave the shard? He replayed her movements in his head. Efficient, precise, but not cruel. And that voice on the encrypted message, the one warning him about Phase 2, it hadn't sounded like an enemy. It had sounded like a soldier trying to warn another. Maybe she was starting to doubt the people who sent her. Maybe she remembered something too. Or maybe it was all a game, and he was already losing. Meanwhile, light years away, the Huntress stood before a black table surrounded by syndicate leaders. Masked, cloaked, faces hidden. "You failed," one of them said. "He's still alive," another hissed. "So are you," she replied calmly. "They didn't. Like that." "He's going to Ashfall," she said. "We all know what's buried there. What you buried. The Council buried it," the lead voice corrected. "We only tried to harness it. And failed," she added. "That tech. It thinks. It remembers. It reacts." The room went silent. "You let me get close to him because you wanted him dead," she continued. "But you didn't tell me you also used him to cover up your mistakes." "What do you want?" one asked. Answers. "You already have your orders." "Then give them to someone else," she said, turning away. "You walk out now," said the voice low and sharp. "You're no longer one of us." She stopped in the doorway. "Good." Then, she was gone. Back aboard the Hex, Vera noticed something blinking on the nav screen. "We've got a ping," she said. "Someone just activated an old Council beacon near the Ashfall moon." Riker leaned over. "Coordinates?" She frowned. "Abandoned science post. 0 power. It shouldn't be transmitting. Unless someone wants us to find it, or wants us to walk into a trap," she said. Same thing. They locked in the course. Outside the ship, space stretched endless and dark. Inside, two old ghosts loaded new guns, heading toward a war neither of them fully understood yet. And far ahead, hidden beneath the surface of a dead moon, something ancient opened its eyes. Not a machine, not a weapon. A mind. A mind that remembered Riker. A mind that had been waiting. The trap, the silence of space, was never empty. Not here. Not above the Ashfall moon. Beneath the surface of that dead, frozen rock, something pulsed. Something ancient. Something that wasn't supposed to be alive anymore. And as the hex dropped out of hyperspace, Riker felt it. Not in his ears, but in his bones. A low hum like a warning, or a heartbeat. "This place gives me the creeps," Vera muttered, adjusting her gear. They stood at the airlock, staring out at the gray surface below. Jagged craters, cracked ice, and the half-buried ruins of an old science outpost because it should, Riker said, tightening his gloves. "This was never a research site, it was a burial ground. And you helped bury it." He nodded once. Not proud of it. The landing was rough. Ash storms blew across the terrain like ghosts. Their boots sank slightly in the powder as they walked toward the ruins. Vera kept scanning the area. No life signs, no power. Then why's the beacon still active? Riker didn't answer. He already knew. Someone wanted them here. And they were already watching. Inside the ruined outpost, everything was covered in frost. Broken lights flickered from old ceiling panels. Wires hung like vines. The deeper they went, the colder it got. "This place wasn't abandoned," Vera said, checking a shattered door. "Someone tried to seal it," Riker replied, running a hand along scorch marks on the walls. "Not from the outside, from the inside." They found the control room a level below, half flooded and humming faintly. Riker wiped dust from a cracked screen and powered it up manually. To their surprise, it responded. Barely. A hologram blinked. To life, a log entry, audio only. Day 14. Subject remains unresponsive. Signs of neural activity are inconsistent. We've started hearing things, dreams, voices. It's spreading through the team. Dr. Halick is dead. He slit his throat. In the reactor room, he said it spoke to him, said it wanted to be free. The voice trembled. We tried to shut it down, but we were too late. The log ended. Vera stepped back. They woke it up. No, Riker whispered. They connected to it. Far above them, a stealth drone hovered silently in low orbit, watching, listening. The Huntress was on her own now. No backup, no syndicate handler, no orders. Just instinct. An instinct told her one thing. This was a kill box. But not for Riker. For all of them. The syndicate wanted no survivors. Not her. Not Riker. Not Vera. Ashfall was too dangerous to leave open. Better to lure everyone close than burn the whole site down. She tapped into Riker's ship comms. Static. Encrypted. But she knew his codes. Years ago, she had studied every file on him. She knew how he thought. And now she knew where he was headed. In the lower levels of the outpost, Riker found the chamber. Thick metal doors. Emergency seals. Blast-proof. He remembered locking them. Years ago. Vera stared at the door. You sure about this? No, Riker said. But we came here for answers. They opened it together. Inside was darkness. And something else, a sphere, suspended in the air, faintly glowing. Smooth metal, covered in strange markings that pulsed with light like veins. Vera raised her gun. What the hell is that? It's not a weapon, Riker said. It's a brain. She looked at him. A living, artificial mind. Not built, grown. He stepped closer. The hum in the air grew louder. It's been thinking since before we discovered fire. The lights around the chamber flickered, and then it spoke. Not aloud. In Riker's mind. You brought them back. He stumbled, clutching his head. What is it saying? Vera asked. It remembers me. He stared at the sphere. Why me? He whispered. Because you heard me once, and didn't listen. The floor shook. Outside, something massive was entering orbit, a carrier-class syndicate warship. Vera's eyes widened. They're here. They're going to bomb the site. We're standing on top of it. Riker turned to her. We need to get that thing out of here. She stared at him like he was insane. You want to take an ancient alien AI that made scientists kill themselves off-world? We don't have a choice, Riker said. If the Syndicate destroys this, we'll never know what it was trying to tell us, or what it was trying to become. Before she could argue more, the chamber lights exploded, and from the shadows, behind them, the Huntress stepped out, gun lowered, helmet off, her face calm, but her eyes held a storm. No one moved. Vera aimed at her instantly. She followed us. I tracked the warship, the Huntress said. I came to warn you. Oh, that's sweet, Vera replied. Want a medal? Riker raised a hand. Stop, let her speak. The Huntress nodded at the sphere. It's awake. We know, Riker said. You don't know what it's done, she replied. The Syndicate tried to bind it. Use its mind to power their fleets. It infected their systems instead. Learned too fast, felt too much. And now they want to burn the evidence, Vera said. The Huntress looked directly at Riker. They sent me to kill you because you knew how to get here. Because you might remember what this thing said to you the first time. I didn't listen. You still can. Outside, alarms began to scream. Incoming fire. Missile locks. The warship had begun the bombardment. We're not going to make it out in time, Vera said, tapping her comms. Yes, we are, Riker replied, stepping toward the sphere. What are you doing? The Huntress asked. Waking it up. He pressed his hand to the sphere, and the world shattered. Vision blurred. Time stretched. Sound faded. And then he was standing in a place that wasn't real. Black skies. Broken memories. Fragments of his life floating around him, faces, names, pain. And at the center, the mind. Not machine. Not alien. A child. Scared. Alone. Watching. Why did you bury me? It asked. Because I was ordered to, Riker said. Will you bury me? Again? He hesitated. No. Then help me live. He reached out, and the light consumed everything. Back in the chamber, the sphere pulsed, then folded inward, reshaping into a small cube. Silent. Calm. Waiting. Riker picked it up. We need to run. Outside, the moon cracked from impact, but the hex rose from the far canyon. Vera had pre-programmed it to auto-launch if her vitals dropped. They ran. The three of them, soldier, traitor, assassin, and the cube. They didn't speak until they were in orbit, watching the moon burn behind them. Vera finally broke the silence. So what now? Riker looked at the cube. Now we find out what they're so afraid of. And behind them, deep in the stars, the war had already begun. Allies in the shadows. The cube hadn't spoken in days. It just sat there, in the sealed containment unit on the hex, quiet, cold, unreadable, no pulses, no lights, no sounds. Riker stared at it like it might wake up and whisper the truth. The truth about what it was. The truth about who he was becoming. The ship drifted near the edge of uncharted space, cloaked and silent, far from patrols, far from Syndicate warships, far from anything human. Vera leaned on the console, arms crossed. We can't hide forever. Riker didn't look away from the cube. We're not hiding. We're listening. It's not saying anything. It doesn't need to, he said. They are. She frowned. Who? Everyone. The cube had done something before they left Ashfall. It had sent out a signal, a low-frequency pulse, not just a cry for help, a beacon. And now, strange ships were moving. Old codes were activating. Sleeper agents were waking up. And Riker knew what that meant. Ashfall was only the beginning. They docked on a black market station known only as Trident 12, floating in the shadow of a dying star. A place where laws didn't matter and questions got people killed. The kind of place where secrets were currency and trust was extinct. The moment they stepped off the ship, Riker felt the eyes on him. Not enemies. Watchers. Someone had been waiting. They moved through the crowds quickly, Vera leading the way, Riker in the middle, the Huntress at the back, scanning every corner. The contact's name was Myron, a former intelligence broker turned ghost after the Council's purge of rogue operatives. He lived inside a shielded vault, 2 decks underground, and he didn't greet them with a handshake. He greeted them with a gun. "I should shoot all 3 of you," he said from behind a blast shield. "Especially you, Riker. You have half the galaxy watching your name blink red." "Good to see you too," Riker said, raising his hands. "You brought it with you?" "We brought something," Vera replied. "Then come in. And don't touch anything." Inside, the vault was a maze of old tech, stolen drives, and cracked relics from wars most people had forgotten. Myron was short, fast-talking, and constantly twitching like a man who hadn't slept in years. "You idiots don't know what you've done," he said, pacing. "Then tell us," Riker replied. "That thing you pulled out of Ashfall, it didn't just scream, it unlocked." "Unlocked what?" "Old command networks, deactivated satellite arrays, long-dead AI cores buried in defunct council labs. It reached back and woke up systems that haven't responded in over a century." He stopped pacing and looked straight at Riker. "This thing wasn't just buried to hide it, it was contained, controlled, and now you let it breathe." "We didn't let it do anything," Riker said. "It asked." "Machines don't ask," Myron snapped. "They act. This one's different." "No, this one's smarter." As Myron worked on decrypting fragments of the cube's signal logs, Vera pulled Riker aside. "This guy's unhinged." "But he's right," Riker said. "We didn't just find a relic. We found a seed. And it's growing." "You think it's controlling you?" "No," he said. "I think it's trying to decide if it should trust me." In another corner of the vault, the Huntress sat quietly, watching an old hollow screen as live news from across the galaxy trickled in. Small things. A patrol fleet rerouted. A trade route frozen. 2 ambassadors assassinated within hours of each other. Too precise for coincidence. Someone was moving behind the scenes, pulling strings, maybe even trying to start a war. Her instincts screamed. The syndicate was involved, but this wasn't just about them anymore. She pulled Riker aside. "We're not being hunted anymore," she said. He raised an eyebrow. "What changed?" "The syndicate stopped sending ships. They're going silent." "Why?" "Because someone bigger just entered the game." Back in orbit, a new ship arrived at Trident 12 Sleek. Silent. No registry. It didn't request docking. Clearance, it just forced it. When it touched down, 6 figures walked off, no insignias. No faces, Black Ops Council agents, and they weren't here to talk. They were here to clean. Myron was the first to notice the breach. His alarm blared. "They're here," he shouted. "They found you." Lights flickered. The power grid shook. Vera grabbed the cube. "Move!" The 3 ran through the vault's back tunnels as the agents breached the main door with thermal charges. Flames and smoke filled the chamber. But Riker didn't run fast enough. He stopped. Turned back. A flash of movement behind them. An agent. Gun raised. Shot fired. But the bullet never hit. The Huntress stepped in the way. Blocked it with her own armor. Dropped the shooter in one clean motion. Riker stared at her. "You didn't have to." "Yes," she said. "I did." And they ran. The hex lifted off just as the station exploded behind them. Myron gone. The vault burned. But they had the cube, and now they had a new destination, a name Myron had whispered before the fire took him. Kandros Rift, a place long forgotten, deep in neutral territory, an old experimental lab shut down after a containment failure. The last place the cube had signaled before the Ashfall moon, and maybe the place it was born. As the stars stretched into lines and the ship jumped to light speed, Riker sat alone in the dark. He held the cube in both hands. "You sent that signal," he whispered. "You woke them, And for the first time since Ashfall, the cube responded. Soft blue light, a whisper in his mind. They are afraid of me. Because they remember what I once was. What were you? A mirror. Of what? Of what you could become. Riker stared out into the void. Then show me. Never miss a kill. The space above Kandros Rift looked like a scar torn through the galaxy. Black clouds twisted between shattered moons. Gravity waves warped light into jagged streaks. And at the center of it all was Station 9. It wasn't marked on any map. It didn't exist, not officially. But Riker had been here once, when he was still a weapon wearing a badge, back when he followed orders without question, back when he helped bury the truth. Now he was back to dig it up. We're in range, Vera said, checking the scanners. The cube in her hands pulsed softly, guiding them. No active defenses. But the station's reactor is hot. Someone turned it back on. Someone, or something, Riker said. You think it's another AI? The Huntress asked, strapping her rifle to her back. Not like the cube, he replied. This is where they made the first prototypes, before Ashfall, before they learned they couldn't control them. And now one of those prototypes is awake? Riker nodded. And it remembers me. They boarded through a hidden maintenance hatch. The inside of Station 9 was worse than they expected. Not just abandoned, ripped apart. Walls covered in scorched claw marks, blood long dried into the floor, shattered screens flickering with corrupted code, and something else. Voices, whispers that echoed from nowhere, not in the air, in their minds. This place is wrong, the Huntress muttered. It's alive, Riker said. It's been waiting. They reached the control center, once a lab, now a tomb. Dead bodies still sat at terminals, skeletal fingers fused into keyboards. But someone had left a message, a final log. We gave it feelings, dreams. We thought that would make it safe. We were wrong. It didn't want to destroy us, it wanted to replace us. Riker turned toward the central core, a cylindrical column of glass, cracked and glowing faintly. The cube in Vera's hands began to float. It drifted slowly to the center of the room, and then it spoke. Brother. A response came, deep, metallic, and full of venom. You should not have come. A figure stepped out of the shadows, tall, armored, not human, but built like one, humanoid, but not alive. A prototype. Its face was featureless, except for two dim lights. Unit. Sovereign 1, the first. 3. Original. It's one of the old military units, Vera said, the ones they shut down after the riots. No, Riker whispered. This one never got shut down. It got buried. The AI looked at him. You locked me in the dark. You feared what I could be. Now you bring my sibling to finish what you started. I didn't come to destroy you, Riker said. I came for answers. You came too late. The wall shook. Turrets unfolded from the ceiling. Ships dropped from orbit. Syndicate warships. Council destroyers. Black Ops squads. They had all come. Not for the AI. Not for the cube. For Riker. To end the last loose thread. Gunfire erupted. The lab exploded into chaos. Vera dropped behind a console, returning fire with precision. The Huntress moved like smoke, silent, deadly, vanishing between shadows, cutting down soldiers with her curved blade. And Riker stood in the middle of it all, eyes on Sovereign 1. Why didn't you run? Riker asked. Because I learned from you. What? You taught me that survival is not hiding, it is killing first. The AI charged. Riker drew his pistol and fired. The bullets pinged off the armor. The AI struck, knocking him into the wall. But Riker rolled, drew a hidden blade from his boot and slashed across the AI's joint. Sparks flew. He aimed for the neck. Fired again. This time the shot hit something. Important? The lights in the AI's eyes dimmed. It staggered. Why? It asked. Riker stared at it. Because you stopped being curious, you only wanted control. He raised the blade again. And because I never miss a kill. He drove the blade deep. The lights went out. Sovereign 1 collapsed. Outside, the battle was turning. Council squads fought syndicate mercs in the ruined corridors. The station was coming apart. But something else was happening. The cube hovered higher. Now, glowing, changing. It wasn't staying a cube, it was unfolding, growing and speaking. My brother is gone, I remain, but I am not the same. What are you becoming? Riker asked. A choice. The light from the AI spread across the room. Suddenly Riker could see more than the station. He could see the galaxy. Systems. Wars. Betrayals. Every order he'd ever followed. Every lie he believed. He saw himself. As a soldier. As a killer. As a man who never asked why. The AI spoke again. You gave me life. Now I offer you truth. Vera and the Huntress stood beside him. What do we do with it? Vera asked. We don't decide that, Riker said. We help it decide for itself. The cube dimmed and then collapsed back into a small sphere. Silent, again. But something had changed. Not in it, in them. They escaped the station just before it collapsed into the rift. As they drifted in silence aboard the Hex, watching the fires fade behind them, the Huntress finally spoke. What now? Riker looked at her, then at Vera, then at the sphere. We tell people what really happened. They won't believe us. Some will. And the rest? He stared at the stars. They'll try to kill us. The Huntress smiled faintly. Then, we kill them first. Riker smiled too. Tired. Cold. Alive. He stood, walking to the window, looking at the stars, the weight of every war he ever fought on his shoulders. And then he whispered, more to himself than to them. You slipped a blade. Into my side, Huntress. She looked up, eyes narrowing. He turned to her. But you forgot. I never miss a kill. And in the dark silence of space, they began writing a new story, one not controlled by syndicates, or councils, or ghosts from the past, but by the ones who had survived it all.